So welcome back, everyone, to Tuesday Tea. Today you're getting your tea on a Wednesday, but there's no rules, so that's how it's going to be this week. I'm Alisha with my co-host Melissa, and we have the pleasure of having Bryan as our guest today, our second male guest. He is the husband of Nicole, who you met last month, I believe. But has his own story and own wisdom and a really great take and perspective that he's going to share with us today about his journey, just from younger life to joining the Coast Guard to meeting Nicole to where he's at today, which is like in a really incredible position. I have the honor of being friends with them. He had served with my husband, who's now retired, but it's been such a joy to know them personally. And I'm excited to hear, some of these new parts of his story that I'm sure I don't even know about. So it's going to be a good one. We're excited to have you, Bryan. I'll let you introduce yourself a little bit more fully, and then we'll kind of dive in. So welcome.
Great. Thanks for having me. So I'm Bryan, like you said. Currently, we live in Washington, D.C. So we've been here 3 years. And if we stay for another year, this will be the longest I've ever stayed in a single location in 25 years. So looking forward to reaching that milestone of 4 years in one place.
Warriors.
Um, yeah, so I've known you and Taylor, or known you for what, at least 10 years.
Mm,
Um,
maybe like
Taylor,
seven, but Taylor
okay.
many,
Taylor
because I
since
haven't even known Taylor 10 years.
2006. Yeah, so Taylor since 2006.
Yeah.
And y'all met Nicole in previous recordings, but yeah. So just kind of want to go over my life of who I am today and how I kind of got here because it
Yeah,
was not a straight and narrow path. Um, so
it never
uh,
is.
I was talking to Alicia earlier, and I just missed my 25th high school reunion this past weekend. Um, so when I left high school, I was 103 pounds. Little Bryan is what everyone called me. Um, I
Oh,
was timid and quiet, pretty much an introvert. And I went to Clemson University. Uh, Followed my sister pretty much, but I just went there, kind of no real plan. I thought I was going to be an engineer. I was in Air Force ROTC.
Hmm.
Um, and that helped me kind of get out of my shell a little bit, meeting new people. But ultimately, Clemson did not work out after 4 years. So that was my first kind of life failure. Um, I was always, I was in honors and AP in high school. I was in engineering. So I was smart, but like in Clemson, I was felt like not the smartest kid in engineering classes. Um,
Yeah.
so my first, life pivot was leaving Clemson and joining the Coast Guard. So I joined in 2005, so I was almost 23, I believe.
Okay.
Um, Came in at the bottom. Um, Literally, I started in the engine room of the ship. Um, and
Literally the bottom.
yeah,
That's where I started.
and my first patrol, my first trip, we left Virginia and went to Africa. And our first port of call on the way over there was in Spain. And I just remember going in Cartagena, Spain for our first port of call. And I'm walking with a guy in ropers and wranglers, a guy in Jinkos, because that was still acceptable back then. I came from Carolina, so I'm wearing khakis and collars. I just kind of looked around and I was like, I actually fit in that diverse kind of environment. And so it's kind of my first, like, this makes sense. Like,
Hmm.
Coast Guard kind of happened, um, just because I didn't have many other options at the time. But like, that was my first affirmation of, I can do this. Um, from there, I was still, the smart kid, but the quiet kid. Um, Went to training the same time as Taylor, so I was a month behind him in our trade school.
Hmm.
Um, Went from there to New Orleans and met my wife Nicole. She is life of the party. She's the extrovert.
he sure is.
She's the energy. So opposites attract. So we started dating almost 18 years ago. I think 18 years ago next week. Um,
Wow.
and and it's been a journey ever since then. Um, and it's actually funny kind of how we've evolved and adapted each other's personalities.
Hmm.
Um, I am the last, let's see, I made chief petty officer in, I want to say 2016. So that's where like the culmination of when you become the workforce leader and you have to be like the outgoing extrovert just at work.
Yeah.
So I had to adapt my personality per se at work to at least be confident and outgoing. Um, but it was nice because I kind of had a model with Nicole to kind of
Hmm.
reference that after because she doesn't lack confidence. So
She has
that
no
was
shame.
fortunate. Um, yeah, can I go a little bit more? Um, trying to think what else.
Well, now where you're at, you're like you are the highest in the MSTs. Am I correct?
So I
One of the
peaked
highest?
peaked pretty soon. So yes, I made E9 Master Chief, the highest enlisted pay grade. Um, yeah, I think 16 years in the service.
Which
Um,
is huge.
so I did just leave. I left the technical field with Taylor back in 2019
Okay.
um, to run the training schoolhouse that both Taylor and I went through in 2006,
Mm.
um, which for me was kind of special. I did skip over this part earlier. Taylor actually graduated from our trade school, and I did not. Um, so I actually had another pivot in my career. I got a DUI the day before graduation. So I had orders to New Orleans post Katrina. I would have been honor grad. Um, they did an investigation, and I got administrative marks in my history, but I was allowed to go to New Orleans post Katrina because there wasn't anyone else that wanted to go
Anything.
there.
Yeah.
So when I came back in 2019 as the school chief, I'd never seen a graduation before. So now I'm a senior enlisted member. I'm in charge. Um, and so I shared my story and I had to tell these now 18, 19-year-old students my journey, kind of how, again, the DUI wasn't what defined me. It was kind of what I did after that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for
That
sure.
was, that was a very kind of special time to have. Um,
The full
after
circle
I,
moment.
yeah,
I have so many questions. This is just like the one bad thing. Well, there's lots of bad things about me, but one is like I'm so curious and I have so many questions. But I will try to just keep it to one for now. First of all, thank you for your service. Mad respect for our servicemen and women, and yeah, like we appreciate you and what you do every single day, and just kind of take for granted. So I just wanted to acknowledge that publicly. And then second, how, oh, so I'm an educator as well.
hmm
And I think what I'm wondering about as an educator is how did your experience as sort of like feeling maybe like the sort of unsuccessful student in sort of your
hmm
prior life, how has that impacted what you've been able to do in this role in educating other people? I
Mm-hmm.
think sometimes the people that become educators are people that had a really hard time in school, and I think that makes them super valuable because I think they have a unique perspective on maybe different cool ways to learn or like ways that they see the world that maybe is more helpful than the way like sort of the typical brain sees it. So anyway, I would just love to hear your thoughts about that if you could share.
So I'm a little bit different where like I didn't struggle in Coast Guard training. I would have been the honor grad had I not gotten in
Sure.
trouble. I excelled um, in like our advancement system. I tested very well. But when I got to the schoolhouse, one of my mentors kind of told me that every every student interaction is a chance to practice leadership.
Hmm.
So there's no two situations are going to be handled with the um, same reaction. You may have someone that fails a test and you have to be a little bit more intrusive and see, you know, they're at the training for 2 or 3 months. Life happens. Is there an argument with their spouse that just happened that they're not going to talk about? Did they just
Mhm.
get orders to Houma, Louisiana, and that caused a rift in their relationship? So we had to deal a lot more with not just the kinesthetic or tactile learners, but also like the life factors. So
Yeah.
it,
Mm.
it helped me as I transitioned um, from kind of that subject matter expert into that leader to build those empathetic skills and build those personal skills. Um, and after I left the schoolhouse, to Alicia's earlier point, I did become, it's called the Rating Force Master Chief, where I was in charge of the active and reserve component of my rating, making sure I was just their advocate in headquarters, make sure they had the training and the tools and the capabilities to do their job, just make sure overall, all over the country, they were well supported. So I was just their advocate in the building. Um, but now I'm kind of taking a different pivot back into training. So now
Hmm.
I work overarching. So I'm in what's called Force Com, Force Readiness Command, but I'm
Force.
called the Force Com.
Sounds so fancy.
uh, but it's called the Chief Rating Knowledge Manager. So um, I'm not just overseeing my rating, I am kind of the facilitator and enabler for all 23 enlisted ratings in the Coast Guard. So we
Mm.
do the occupational analysis to determine what they should be doing, what the service needs them to do, and then we provide the foundation training and the training interventions throughout their entire career. So um, this is kind of my dream job, just because I can't. Probably have ADHD, but I thrive in chaos, and I have to have multiple things going on in my head. Otherwise, I
Hmm.
get bored.
Hmm.
So now the minimum number of things I have going on in my head for work is at least 23, because I have 23
Amazing.
different
I love
people that are like, "Hey,
That's
I need
very
this, I need
specific,
this."
but yeah.
it.
But
What do you think has been that maybe like thread or driving force or whatever that has taken you from, the student that didn't finish at Clemson to this very influential and prestigious job within the Coast Guard? I mean, I could speak to like knowing lots of people, not everyone gets, very,
Mhm.
very few people get as high and continue to grow and climb the ranks as you did, but where you had all these setbacks and moments where it would have been easy to just say like, that's not for me, or I am just this DUI, or I am just this dropout, or I am just whatever. And instead, it sounds like something really helped you reframe that and double down instead of using it as your identity or giving up. So I'm just curious, like, what do you think has helped you through all these different experiences?
so I learned later on it wasn't me. It was I had a few people that were looking out for me.
Hmm.
So when I got my DUI, the lead investigator um, is now one of my mentors. I ended up he was stationed in Houma when I was in New Orleans, and we worked together again in New Orleans. Then he went on to be the school chief, and then I replaced his replacement as he went on to be the rating force mapping chief, and then again I replaced his replacement. So he saw something in me along the way, and kind of kept that touch point and kept like when I got selected for the school chief. I thought I'd get an interview. I thought I'd get a screening panel or something. I just got orders. I was almost let down because I was ready to tell him like what I would do with the position.
Do this.
Um,
Yeah.
but he was essentially the deciding factor. So he just
Amazing.
selected me, and it's like that's what I needed in the career. So um, yeah, I was just the guy that came into work and thought he knew everything and had a mouth that eventually I got into a position where I could back up my mouth with rank and pay grade. Um,
You
but
just were
until I got
practicing
there,
early.
yeah. But until I got there, it was actually my mentor, and we still touch base and see each other when he comes through town. So yeah, it was definitely him.
Hmm.
So,
So important to remember how people people's influence on us and what that can mean. And I think to your credit, that wasn't just him. Like you believed
Mhm.
him and you showed up and you rose to that level that he was pushing you
Mhm.
towards. But I think it's such a cool reflection, like you're saying, that you get to now do that for others. And so some of these students, like things you've said or ways
Mhm.
you've shown them support or listened or cared is going to matter in their trajectory as well. And some you might get to hear about and some you might not ever know. And in
Mhm.
Melissa's work, I know in mine, like it's just such a cool influence we have that
Mhm.
um, when you've experienced it on the other side, it really, I think, makes it that much more powerful when you're giving it too. I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and how some of so going from the schoolhouse, I had about 600 students go through the training while I was at the schoolhouse in Virginia. And then coming into my last job as the rating force master chief, I spent a lot of time visiting units. And so I got to see their successes and hear
Mm,
their stories.
mm,
And even today, I had a call from um, someone that was a junior enlisted with me in Tampa, who is now made chief petty officer at his own milestone at 15 years in service. And he reached out to me for kind of words of wisdom and advice. So that's been really kind of giving the last 10 years of watching everyone else's successes. Like I said, I reach it pretty quick, and seeing everyone else's kind of their own stories evolve has been nice.
yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Did you have any other of your questions, Melissa, before?
No, I just think I'm struck by this idea of community and this idea of like you in a leadership position could sort of just sit back and sit up. And the fact that you're going around and like really meeting people where they're at is, I think, probably one of the reasons, besides all the others that you've mentioned, on why you are successful, right? Because like you're human, there's a human element that's sometimes missing in certain work, like particularly I think military is one of those things, right? Where you're saying like you've grown in like the empathy and like the human side, and I think that's probably what makes you feel really relatable and accessible, and just people see themselves maybe in you, like, oh, I could be that, I could do that. And I think that is really important in roles of leadership. So I think that's awesome.
Yeah, and that's been very intentional.
Yeah.
Mm,
Um, Back when Taylor and I were stationed in Savannah, I was still borderline introvert, but I was just by the book, and I just came in and did my job. And um, my wife's comments, I think my first day of work there was, "Don't be an asshole." Um, and
Sound
because
advice.
yeah, because we wanted to meet friends in new units, and for her first time moving away from home. Um, but as I kind of when we went to Tampa, I wasn't a public speaker. I hated the spotlight, but I knew my next advancement would be that where I had to
you
do
had.
that.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to Toastmasters. I joined the American Legion. I ran for office with the American Legion and held office as a commander of the post. Um, if you can sit in front of a room full of 20 Vietnam and World War II and Cold War vets and hold your own, you learn quickly.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and they challenged me. They knew exactly what I was doing, so they gave me that confidence.
Yeah.
Um, and then San Francisco, I volunteered to stay in public affairs duty, which again just pushes you through your barrier
Mm,
because you just get a phone call of, "Hi, you're live on the radio with San Francisco News. We're calling about the missing voter in Monterey," and you
yeah.
gotta you're live on the radio. You have to be able to know
Yeah.
what to say and how to say and what you can and cannot say. So uh, just building those confidence and those steps along the way.
For sure.
I think that's huge. Just the intentional nature of doing things that are hard, but pushing yourself to grow and finding the right people to grow under and grow with in your support system, both in and out of the military. And I think that you set yourself up for the success you found because you were so wise about how you went into it. And it wasn't easy. Nothing
Mhm.
worth having is easy, but you took that in stride, but created the system that worked to get you there. And I think that's such a great example. Um,
And I had to fake it until I learned it.
Yeah.
Um, when I was in San Francisco, I had a note card on my desk that was out of eyesight of people. But when my crew would walk into my office, I would look over and say, "Hi, Ken, how is your wife that and four kids that are homeschooled?" I had to like try to adapt
I love that.
to be personable. It
Yeah.
was not very personal in the beginning, but I had to learn that. And then now it's comes naturally over the years as to,
hmm hmm
but I had to make an effort to in the beginning.
I mean, that's life, you know? I think that's being honest. Like not
Hmm.
everything comes naturally. So what do you think you would be the most important thing you want to kind of leave folks with from your own experiences, from your journey, all this wisdom that you have to share? Like what's that last soundbite you want to leave people with?
So I've never stopped changing or evolving or growing. So
Mm,
um, Clemson, was a little bit my fault, a little bit not my fault. Um, uh, Going through the Coast Guard boot camp and trade school, going to my first unit, I've earned competencies, certification, qualifications. Um, finally finished my bachelor's degree during COVID. So after 21 years of going to college, got that done.
yes.
Um, Currently in grad school right now with for math of science and management. So um, I have kept kind of my own evolution, whether it was those public speaking, the empathy, uh, professional education, personal education. Um, I've had, to me, like kind of one achievement at every single milestone in my career. I
Mm,
keep pushing, keep looking at what's next. Um, and so even in my current job, I could just sit back. I just did 20 years back in February. I could get comfortable, but I I like to be uncomfortable. I like to put myself in those challenging positions. So that would be my kind of guide is just always challenge yourself. And if you get comfortable, um, something's probably wrong. You're either going to get complacent and start making mistakes, um, or you should look to keep pushing yourself in a different direction or a new direction. So,
It's really
great
wise
advice.
advice. Yep.
Yeah, no, it's true. I always say like the minute you get comfortable, you stop growing. And what's the
Yeah.
point if we
And
stop
if you're
growing?
not growing, you're kind of not living, right? Like you're kind of just, I mean, I don't like to say dying, but like you kind of are, right? So I
mhm.
don't know. I feel like as long as we're alive, it's like our job to grow. And I like your point, Brian, of like it doesn't necessarily have to be like you might be someone that just wants to be a teacher for 35 years and retire. And you just want to be the greatest teacher ever. And I think that's beautiful. And we need people like that, right? And maybe there's another area that you can push yourself, right? Like maybe it's a different area of your life. And I think you're talking to two women who I think are always like hustling and trying new things and trying to like grow and like are
No,
like always so busy. And sometimes I'm like, why did I add this to
Why do
my
I do this
plate?
to myself?
But I think we're all kind of peas in a pod. Like I feel the
Right.
best when I'm like busy because I feel alive, and I feel my best when I'm challenged. And I think that's really sage advice. And yeah, I love that that was like your final word.
yeah, I
I
was
love
trying to
it.
explain Alicia to my friend and carpool buddy Kellyanne, and I was like, she's a Pilates author, videographer. Like,
Sagittarius.
yeah, she's like
A
just so many
girl.
things. And I was like,
You're gonna say I'm a Sagittarius. I think
You
that
gotta
really
have
does
the
sum it up.
Sag. You gotta have the Sag. That's like a must have.
But Brian's my November birthday. But he's a Scorpio. We forgive
yep.
him, but he is also November. And
Oh,
Nicole and Taylor are 2 days apart
oh,
or 3 days apart. So they're like both Geminis. So it's
oh,
funny.
that's right. And I love my boyfriend is also a Gemini, which we know because Taylor and I get along like so well. But you, Brian, are a water sign, and I'm a water sign. I get along with Scorpios always, like always, always, always.
There you go. See?
Yeah,
It's just all
there you
meant to
have
be.
it, everybody.
Really fast, is there anywhere I can link people to if they have questions, like just about the Coast Guard or about you in general or anything like that? Will you give me something I can put into?
I'll share my LinkedIn account and
Okay,
always available through that.
perfect. Yeah, just in
Great.
case people want to know more. Well, thank you so much, Brian. We appreciate it. I know that folks are going to get a lot out of this, and your story is amazing, and we loved hearing it and chatting through it. So We'll see you guys next time. Have a good rest of your night.
Uh,
Bye.